Hi folks, we're back again, and I know you were actively awaiting this next video. And right here we have a Firestorm starting box, and it goes to FUS according to this label, but that might be a little inaccurate, so we'll see what happens. However, I can guarantee Firestorm is definitely on the menu here. So this is Firestorm 2. This is from the first series of Firestorm, which...
Is Firestorm a Superman variant?
No, Firestorm is a whole different kind of thing. It was actually created by, or co-created by Jerry Conway, who was the second writer of Spider-Man and who was famously
After Stan Lee.
involved in the writing the story of the death of Gwen Stacy and the subsequent death of Green Goblin, which remains a seminal event in comic book history. And it was not really gratuitous. It was just a really good story. So but yeah, he co-created Firestorm, and if you read Firestorm and enough, you can kind of see where this is his version of Spider-Man and Peter Parker, because it's a high school kid who's kind of trying to navigate his way through high school life. Except the role's kind of reversed, because the character Firestorm, his secret identity is Ronnie Raymond, and he's on the basketball team, and he's like a cool guy at the school. So it's an interesting take, and if you look at it, I noticed some parallels to Spider-Man in there, but it was also original and interesting. So, but
it says guest starring Guess Who on the cover. That's funny.
Yeah. Then this is Firestorm 4. Also, I mentioned that the original series there were actually 2 series of Firestorm. Maybe there's way more now, but through the 80s and 90s there were only 2. The first one that I'm showing you here, these were from the first series, which was in the 70s or maybe early 80s. But there was something called the DC Implosion, which is a sad event in comic books history. That DC had made all these announcements in the mid-70s that they were going to launch all these great new titles, Firestorm, Steel, and they had a whole bunch of other titles, All-Star Comics, and they had all these great titles. And then for financial reasons, they had to cancel nearly half the line, and that included all the new titles. So I believe Firestorm...
Except for Firestorm.
I believe Firestorm only went 5 issues. So this is number 4. I have a bunch of those, and this is number 5. So, yeah, I mean, and I think that if it hadn't been for the DC implosion, then Firestorm would have probably continued on its path, and it was an interesting series. But then here we go again. Here's Firestorm number 1, the relaunch series, and this, I think, was like 1982 or 1983. So it was nice that that Jerry Conway got to bring Firestorm back. They changed it to The Fury of Firestorm this time, because the original title was just Firestorm the Nuclear Man, and now it's Firestorm the Nuclear...
It's the Fury of Firestorm,
The Fury of Firestorm the Nuclear Man.
I love the thing at the top, too, because you demanded it back in his own magazine.
Yep, so that's cool stuff. And I have a bunch of these number 1s. And here's number 2. I have this will just be the beginning. You can tell, that I liked Firestorm a lot, because I pretty much have an entire run that I'm ready to sell to anybody who is interested in cool comics. They're not overly expensive. They have good art. They're good stories, and interestingly, part of it I think the early book takes place in New York, but there's also parts of it that take place in Pittsburgh, so it's unusual.
Pittsburgh,
yeah, for a comic book to be featured in somewhere other than California or New York, especially in the 80s. So. Yeah, and it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh is very specific of a place for it to take place too.
Right. So yeah, and it's just really cool. I like I said, I have almost an entire series, and
that's why none of them take place in Philadelphia. Actually,
there are some. I think the Ray, for example, took place in Philadelphia.
Huh.
Firehawk. Now, one of these issues is also, I don't have it here. It might be number 19. Introduced the character of Felicity Smoke, who appeared in the Arrow TV show. So that could be why I don't have that issue. It's probably become a bit of a collector's item, more than just a $1 or $2, $3 book. But yeah, so there's this is Killer Frost. She was another popular character in Firestorm.
Not to be confused with Killer Moth, of course.
Yep. So yeah, and Firestorm also spent time with the Justice League. So yeah. And so a bite. Maybe this is the issue that introduces. I don't know if this is the issue that introduces her, but I believe that is Felicity Smoke. So yeah, I mean it's interesting all the interesting things that come out of this, and it was just a good series. So anybody looking for something
Who's
new.
thinking this is stupid? Is that a snake?
Where's that? Oh yeah, it's toys attacking him.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have a whole bunch of these Firestorm. Then this goes on. I think Firestorm went to 100 in its original series. Like this one has Phantom Stranger. That's issue 32.
You mean the reboot series?
Yeah, and this one has 33. So it goes on. Then John Ostrander took over at a certain point, and this is 65. So let's see. So here's Jerry Conway still at 47. Let's see. This is 65. I think John Ostrander had taken. Yeah, he's John Ostrander took over. So somewhere between 47 and 65, John Ostrander, who was also very good, took over the title. And, there he is mixing with Green Lantern because of his connection to the Justice League. So, so this series was pretty good for, just this is issue 84. So Firestorm went on for a while. Here's an annual. That's annual number 1. Annual 2. That's number 3. So he has at least, that's 5. So I don't have annual 4. So yeah, so that was just a good series, highly recommended, and that's all. So I got a bunch of Firestorms. If anyone's interested, please let me know. I think you'll really enjoy it if you go ahead and buy it. So this is Flash. Flash is obviously a classic DC character, and this issue is in terrible shape because the side of it is ripped off on the top, the cover.
That probably means you did a lot of reading of it.
Yeah. So this one is issue 231 of the original series. So it's an older book, but this one looks a lot better, especially for a white cover. But it does have its bumps. I think Carrie Bates was writing Flash at the time that this series was going on. And this is looks like an Ernie Chua cover, and he's done some cool covers for the DC in the 70s. So yeah, here's an announcement now monthly, and I'm surprised that Flash was ever not monthly, but that was a big deal back in the day that some titles were bi-monthly. Like Daredevil was one of those titles that was bi-monthly until Frank Miller came along, and I'm not sure if he was the real reason, because a little known fact is Daredevil was actually pretty good before Frank Miller came in. It was better when Frank Miller came in, but Daredevil was bi-monthly for a good while, and I think before Frank Miller started writing, or maybe it was after he had started writing and drawing, but he was originally just the artist on Daredevil. Not to say just, but he was the only doing pencils at first, and he was very good, of course, and his writing was almost as good as his pencil. So, he's a very good writer too. So anyway, Daredevil was bi-monthly, and I guess Flash was too. But here now this is Flash 249, and I feel like I'm talking about this stuff too much, so I'll move along. So anyway, these are just original series Flash, and really cool stuff. And then they present us with one of the great storylines in Flash, where Flash's wife was murdered, and then these issues, this is 276, so I don't have 275, which was the actual issue that she was murdered. And then Flash kind of goes nuts. He has trouble dealing with the fact that his wife is dead. He fights with the Justice League because of all the crazy things they can do. He wants them to bring her back, and they say we can't do that. So he kind of has a mental breakdown, and these issues deal actually fairly well with the topic of a masked adventurer having a nervous breakdown. And he has memory loss and all these other things that happen. And now these issues, this is 280, start to deal with the aftermath of his life without his wife. This is 282, so he's still having a problem. And this is 283, where he finds out the truth behind who killed his wife. And so it's really interesting.
Who did
stuff.
Kill his wife?
It was actually Reverse Flash, who was in love with Iris himself and killed her because he couldn't have her.
Was he through a mirror or something?
No, Reverse Flash is basically Professor Zoom. He has a different. He's from the future. He's like a future version of the Flash.
Oh,
and because originally it was this character named Bud Yorkin, Clive Yorkin, that was the original thought to be the killer, and I don't know if they show him. But yeah, Yorkin unfortunately doesn't do well in the series either, so he winds up getting his brain fried or something through some crazy means. But it is comic books, but
there's some crazy means.
But it's really good stories. And then this is about the time where Flash, started to move on from that plot line and just kind of develop more Flash characters. But also another interesting thing is these issues, I believe, have Firestorm backup stories, which I think was what was going on with Firestorm between the original and the new series. So, yeah, just another bonus that you get from reading Flash. There it is. 8 pages with Firestorm. So they had backup stories to kind of whet your appetite, and that's where the "because you demanded it" thing probably came from. Is I think reader response and letters were probably positive about the reappearance of Firestorm. So yeah, there's 290, and then that's 292. So more Firestorm here in 301. That's just, yeah. So yeah, we get into Flash in the 300s. It gets really interesting because then Flash is put on trial. Not that issue. It's later.
It's put on trial?
Yeah.
For what?
I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it might have been for killing the Reverse Flash. Let's see. Has Flash run his... So this is 331, so this is right around the time... Okay, I don't have any issues after that, so I don't know the exact details of the Flash trial, but it pretty much took up the last 30 or so issues of the original series, which went to issue 350.
Oh, dang, okay. So
this is 331. I think this is during the time that he was on trial. So then they relaunched Flash, and unfortunately I don't have any of the original Mike Baron or William Messner Loeb's issues here, but this is Mark Waid, issue 71, so unfortunately I start very late here. I have other Flash issues earlier than this, which have the original Mike Baron and William Messner Loeb's issues. So in here I just have the Mark Waid. This is Grant Morrison, great writer who worked on Animal Man and JLA and some other cool things. So he's done some good stuff, and he worked on Flash for a little bit. So I have a bunch of these. Grant Morrison, that's Mirror Master. So Grant Morrison did some good stuff.
Is he the Reverse Flash, or is he a different
No, Mirror
one?
Master is a different character. He's just a guy who does have his powers based on
Is he oh right, he's Samuel whatever his name is, right?
Yeah, Samuel Stern.
He was in the Batman, so.
Yep, and then Jeff Johns took over on Flash after Mark Waid and Grant Morrison. And he had a good long run, and he had a lot of issues that would deal with specific characters or specific villains in Flash's Rogues Gallery. And so he would feature the villains very prominently. So, yeah. And plus, these have Brian Bolland covers, so that's really great stuff, too. Even as late as 178. So there's John's. And then, he moved into 200. I forget how long Flash went on in the second series. It was something in the 220s or 230s. Here's Flash Gordon. There's Flesh and Bones, which was something else. Flinch, Fly. I'm just going to skip over this. This is Forbidden Worlds. Force Works.
Are you not as familiar with Forbidden Worlds?
Yes. Freedom Fighters. I think we talked about Freedom Fighters in another video, but it just is, I think this is World War II or Earth 2 or Earth 1 DC characters that don't get as much exposure. So they had a series that I think was ended by the implosion, but there's Batwoman and Batgirl. So yeah, so that's it for the Fs. And yeah, so Firestorm and Flash are obviously the main focus of that box.
You were right; it didn't get to fuss.
Yep, and I have many more. So if you are interested in Flash or Firestorm, by all means, please hit me up in the methods listed, the eBay messaging or as a comment. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.